Okay, so change the scenery. Today we're at my jewelry bench, and I am working on a rosary. So this ankh is the symbol of the divine feminine, and the rosary is, of course, the kind of a symbol of the Virgin Mary in Catholicism, but it has actually a much older tradition than that. And I think it's a nice. I love the rosary. To me, it feels more aligned than, say, mala beads. Nothing wrong with mala beads; they're great also. But just for me, I think that, you know, I was not actually raised Catholic, but my dad was. And so I do have a little bit of, you know, the Catholic culture kind of in my bloodline. And I've always just kind of like loved their witchiness, right? The church is so witchy. And so when I read the book called The Way of the Rose last year, before I went to Italy, which was perfect timing, or maybe it was while I was going to Italy, but The Way of the Rose is all about how praying the rosary is not a Christian tradition, it's a pre-Christian tradition that has just been subsumed by the church, which, go figure, like, they've never stolen anything from paganism, right? And so I kind of picked it back up, right? It had always appealed to me, even though I was never, you know, I felt like I couldn't because I wasn't Catholic. But it, you know, it spoke to me, and I felt the book was really eye-opening. And I really just enjoyed reading about it and learning about the rosary. And then I went to Italy and I bought myself a rosary in Assisi from the Cathedral of St. Francis in Assisi, which is a beautiful, beautiful building filled with just so much spiritual energy. And yeah, so I bought it and I brought it home and I've used it, like I pray with it every night. But I feel like, you know, oh, and then my daughter broke it, right? She found it and she just like started playing it and shaking with it and just like broke one of the links. So I did what any self-respecting DIYer would do, and I fixed it. And then I kind of just like realized how making it would not be that difficult, right? Like, it's a meditative experience, right? Making a, oh my gosh, we're still. Lay down and go to sleep, sweet girl. It's time to go to sleep. She's been in her bed for at least 45 minutes. Yeah, about 45 minutes, 35. And she's like still just partying. Child, you know you're supposed to be sleeping. So anyway, so that sparked an interest in making a rosary, and I kind of like realized that, you know, it's not, well, like, it's hard, right? The challenging parts are the crucifix, or the, you know, the main charm, and then the bit that is the that joins the three, right? So this little bit right here. So this is kind of a, you know, I just took a jewelry saw and cut a circle out of silver, and then I just soldered on 3 rings. It's not the most aesthetically pleasing, but it gets the job done. And then this I had cast out of silver also. It's a copy of a charm that I bought from another, from a jeweler on Instagram, you know. And yeah, so that's what I'm working on today. I have the prelude and the little trigram. I don't know what to call this part. And then I have one. Oh, I forgot to put the Our Fathers in. Oh, that's clever. Okay, yeah, I made a mistake. So it's a good thing I'm filming, because I might not have noticed if I hadn't tried to explain it. So the format should be like there's 10 beads that are all together, and then you've got like a run of blank chain, and then you have one bead and then another run of blank chain, and then another 10, and then a blank, and then one, and then blank. And then so the 10 is the Hail Marys, and then the 1 is the Our Father. Or however you want to pray it, right? It's not set in stone. The church doesn't own prayer, right? We know that. The church does not own prayer. There we go, sweetie. Yeah, lay down, snuggle up. It's time to go to sleep. Okay, so this is 5 and 5, and so this is another decade. Oops. And I just find it really, really meditative, you know, and really calming, and just satisfying, like super satisfying to create something from your own hands, right? I also have, so you might notice other stuff on my bench here, right? I am starting to learn like just basic jewelry making. I have fire. Can't really see it in this light. It's not a good, conditions aren't good for soldering right now. Also, I'm like super low on silver because turns out it's a little expensive. But I have a ton of this wire, so that's why I'm working on the rosary right now. And this is just one of those, like, I think if I could make a living making jewelry, I would be so happy. But I also am kind of late in life to picking it up, so you know, it's not necessarily the thing that society is going to pay me the most for right now. And I'm hoping to improve my skills and get to the point where I can sell my work, but that's not the whole point of it, I guess. The point is to actually make something that you're proud of. And the point is to like produce things. So, I mean, I'm a software engineer by day, right? That's how I make my money. But at the end of the day, like, software is so ephemeral, right? It doesn't last. Like, if you don't have internet connectivity, right? What good is software? You know, like, I hope that I'm good enough that I can, you know, when things break in a big way, which I believe that they will in the future, not sure if that's the near future or the distant future, but we're kind of at an apex right now technologically, and I don't really see us as a society continuing to get better, or to get better's the wrong word, continuing to get more technologically advanced, right? Technologically, we're like so far over our skis at the moment. We're so like far ahead of our own development in terms of what what we're able to create and produce versus what we should be doing, to be frank, like, in terms of our, like, spiritual and cognitive and emotional abilities, I guess, is a way to put it. We are so focused on the left brain, like the physical plane, that we have lost so much of our abilities in the right brain, in the intuitive realm. And we're so far over our skis in the technological realm, in the masculine realm, in the making things in the three-dimensional realm, that I think that the time of reckoning is coming, if it's not already here. I mean, I think in a lot of ways it is already here. And we need to get back in touch with our intuitive selves. Okay, so now there's a little Our Father, right? And that can go in between the decades of Hail Marys. Yeah. My child is just running rampant in her crib, but she's having fun. So I'm not gonna go get her. Okay. So now we have a decade of Hail Marys and an Our Father. And then this part here actually does end with some plain chain, and so I need to make another Our Father to loop it in with that. And this is the part that is, can you see this? Oh, no, you can't. Okay. So I have a spool of wire right here. This is 22 gauge half hard wire. Because I'm making a chain with it, I don't want to have to work harden it in order to be resistant to pulling, and so I get half hard for the chain making, and you can just anneal it if you need it to be soft. So I just cut a length, and it's an eyeball thing. I don't have a good measurement. I know there's probably a way to calculate the right length, and then I just bend the one end into a little loop, and then I put on a bead. And the beads I'm working with today are Botswana agate, which is one of my favorite stones. It's just so soothing and so, like, just such good, like, earth medicine, honestly. And it's got great diversity in the stone. So you have, like, some of them are orange, and some of them are dark, and some of them are purple, and some of them are white. And they all have, or not all of them, but most of them have this just, like, absolutely stunning banded pattern. The trickiest part is getting the loop to close after it's on the chain. So look right here, I'm trying to close this loop right here. Oh, hi Crow. And it's just a tricky maneuver, getting it close enough without making it look bad, because, you know, we do care about aesthetics here. Okay, so I've got our Father in there, and then I can just add this back on to the next decade, and now we have fixed our error, right? And now go. So, prelude, and then we were at the fork. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And then our Father. Oh, there's 2. Okay. Yeah, this needs to go the other way around. That's okay. I just put it on the wrong end. That is one nice thing about this type of jewelry making, like making rosaries, as opposed to anything that requires soldering, is like it's so easy to fix your mistakes, because nothing is permanent here. We're just bending wire. Everything can be repaired. It's like little Bob Ross. Like, there's no mistakes. There's only happy accidents. And these happy accidents are just me, like, being grateful that I decided to share this with you today, right? So, 10, Aunt Mary's, our Father. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay. Yep, and I went too far. Okay. So, the way that I did this last time, and I have not actually completed an entire rosary, because I was feeling blocked by not having these things, because I felt like I needed to like make them fancy, and I'm not, like, I also carve, so this is wax that I would send off to the caster to have made, and so I've been working on like this piece, but I haven't sent it off because I don't, like, I'm nowhere near happy with it, right? And I just haven't had the time to put in like the effort to be perfectly honest, like making my getting my carving skills where I would like them to be, and then the caster takes like, I don't know if they always take like a month, but the one time I've sent them stuff, it's taken a month. So 9, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay. And so if it's going to take a month for them to produce, I want it to be something that I'm proud of, right? It's a little kind of a catch-22. It's hard to iterate quickly, which is like the software engineer in me really likes to just try something and then see if it works, and then try something else and see if it works, right? I've been in software engineering. I have been blessed with a very fast turnaround time on my experiments, and outsourcing the casting to someone else greatly increases that turnaround time. So I don't know what the right answer is, but I decided to just unblock myself from making the rosary by just practicing my soldering, practicing my sawing skills. Like, let's just get it done quick and dirty. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay. And then be done with it, be done with it, right? And then move on. So that was the idea here. And then I decided also that the one that I was working on, I was using these really delicate, beautiful rose quartz beads. And I can actually show you, it's right here. So these are the rose quartz beads. And they almost, like, you almost can't even see that it's rose quartz. It's just really, really delicate, right? And I have the full rosary here on the board, but I put it up against this Ankh charm right? And I actually had a couple of them made. I had 3 of them. One of them's on a necklace downstairs. There's this one. But this just didn't feel like it was the right scale. You know, like this feels too crude and this feels too fine. So I'm saving the rose quartz for a different charm. And I decided to take apart some of the, like I started out making these bracelets, but I haven't sold all that many of them. And so I had a ton of this bead, and I just felt like this was a better scale for this charm. Like the earthiness of the bead, the like clearly hand wrought character of the Ankh charm, right? Like I carved this out of a chunk of wax and filed it and sanded it smooth and stuff. And so it just felt better, right? So that's why I'm on this one. So this is gonna be my first complete one, assuming I finish it, which I think I will. Okay, so we are on to the 3rd decade, and now it's time to just make some charms, or to make some links in the chain. So I still cut them one at a time because I feel like there's always a chance that it's going to be the wrong length, and I don't want to cut a bunch at the wrong length. Oh. All right. So we were here. We were starting to work on the 3rd decade here. And I don't even remember what I was talking about, and the video quit because I was downstairs so long that the phone went to sleep. So yeah, we're just gonna pick up back up where we left off. Baby is fighting a nap, but she needs to sleep, so I'm not gonna go get her up yet. She's not slept a wink. Okay, so let's see, what were we talking about? Making a rosary chain. So making a rosary chain is pretty straightforward. You just need beads like this. You need wire, which is just off camera. It's right down here. I guess I could move it over here so you could see when I'm cutting it. You need wire. Like I mentioned before, this is 22 gauge, half hard sterling silver wire. I like the half hard, so I don't have to work harden it very much. For making a chain, it's really nice. So you can buy metal in 2 different forms. There's dead soft, which is fully annealed, and then there's half hard, which has been slightly work hardened. And metals like silver and gold and other fine metals like that go through a process of work hardening and annealing. So when you get it hot, like almost melt it, it is annealed, and then when you cool it down, it's basically as soft as it's going to get, except for like obviously not melting, right? But it becomes, they call it dead soft, and then by working it, it becomes hardened. So for purposes of making a chain, like I'm doing here, oh, that link was too long. Okay, gotta cut a little bit off of it. For purposes of making a chain, you want it to be, you probably want to buy half hard because you don't want to have to work hard in it too much. Like you don't want the chain to fall apart, right, when you pull on it. So that's why I buy half hard. You could buy dead soft and you could work hard in it, but that is harder. Yeah. So now that's 4. The last one I did was like that, and so I think I want to do a little bit like that. Okay, it looks like she is at least being quieter. Yay, is she laying down? She's laying down, I think. No, she's not laying down, but she's sitting down. So that's an improvement. Yeah. It's the day of the time change. Everybody's schedule is off. Everybody's a little cranky. We had a nice outing to the park this morning, and I thought that she had enough. She's also been feeling like a little bit sick, so don't want to get her like, you know, too tired, because she's already been quite tired, but it's a delicate balance because toddlers are like puppies and you need to run them. You need to run them every day and get them tired so that they will sleep. All right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, halfway through the 3rd decade here. Yeah, so the process is really simple, right? It's very straightforward. You take a piece of wire, you bend a loop in it, you put the bead on, like that. And then you bend a loop on the other end. And then you don't want to close the second loop. You want to leave it kind of like a little hook so that you can hook it onto the previous one, like that. And then closing the loop is the trickiest part, because now where you made the first loop, you only had your pliers in the second loop. You have to close while there's also a piece of wire in it. So it takes a little finagling, but this practice makes practiced. Nothing's perfect, right? And if you wanted something perfect, you wouldn't buy handmade, right? You wouldn't want to make it yourself. Handmade is about having that human quality to it, about having that evidence of the artisan's hands. Not that I would consider myself an artisan yet, but it's a human factor, right? Instead of machine made. And there are definitely tons of perfect machine made rosaries out there, mostly made in Asia. And you can buy them at all over the place in Assisi, right? Or anywhere, right? But Assisi is like rosary capital of the world, it seemed like. It's kind of funny because I was like, when we went there, I was like, oh, I wonder if I could buy a rosary in Assisi. And then like as soon as we got inside the walled city, it was like, bam, here's a bunch of cheap ass rosaries from China. To be perfectly frank. And I didn't want that, so I kind of had to hunt. I ended up finding it at the at the gift shop at the cathedral itself, and it was behind the counter, and it was the only one. They only had a few that were made with natural stones, which I thought was really interesting, because to me, like, why wouldn't you make it with natural stone? But they're all made with glass or plastic beads, and it was made with mother of pearl, which, you know, for a rosary, actually pretty good choice, I think, for a natural stone. But I would have liked to have a bit more of a selection, right? Like maybe some rose quartz or whatever, what have you. But it was either that or straight up pearl, and the pearl ones were like hundreds of euros, and the mother of pearl one was only like 20. So yeah. Okay, this one I may have cut a little too short, so it's going to be a little hairy to get it to close. There we go. So 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I'm trying to show you, but I don't know my camera angles that well. Okay, so that's 8. So we need to do 2 more of this decade. And then we'll move on to the next Our Father, right? I forgot how long the first half of this video was, but that's okay. We're just doing a little live stream. This is what I would be doing. So it's fun to just bring you along on it, really. Okay, so this is a common mistake I make. So this, I just cut it too long, and so you can see that there's a lot of space in between. So I'm just gonna cut off the tip. And it's really hard to estimate these lengths at this scale. It's not something I have a lot of experience with, so I think I'll probably get better at it as I practice more. But it really reminds me of when I was a bench scientist, when I was in undergrad and then in grad school, working at the bench in the lab. I got really good at estimating like volumes of liquid, right? And so I'm very good at telling like a milliliter versus a microliter versus 20 microliters versus 50 like I'm really good at estimating that. I don't have a scale for that for lengths yet, but I'll get there. So it's like this, like, do I clip that much? That's too much. Is that much too much? I'll try it. And once I can't use a template because it's bent, right? And every loop. So I'm making it on these round nose pliers, but there's a taper to it. So if I grab it at the very tip, it makes a very small loop. If I grab it further down, it makes a bigger loop. And so I'm like usually doing it like right in here. But it's not exact, right? It's very, it's just there's a lot of estimation involved and just eyeballing it. Okay. Has she finally gone to sleep? She is laying down. Oh, hooray. Okay. Sleep, baby. She needs a nap. She needs a nap so badly. So that is 10. So now it's time to do an Our Father. And when I'm praying these, you know, it's like I'm praying to like the sun god, you know, like our Heavenly Father. It doesn't have to be the church God. It doesn't have, you don't have to think of it as Yahweh, right? It can be the sun, or it can be the great central sun, or it can be the one infinite creator. You know, that's another word that I like to use. And that is, to me, the one infinite creator is all that is, right? Everything. The intelligence of the universe. But I'm also kind of a polytheist. So I believe in many literal gods. I believe in the Greek pantheon. I believe that they are also the same as the Roman pantheon, and actually many other pantheons have the same archetypes. And I think that there may be, I believe that they're actually the same beings. And I believe that those beings are just sufficiently advanced aliens. That's the Arthur C. Clarke's rule of science fiction is, I think it's his third law of science fiction, is that any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. So that gets quoted a lot, but there's a corollary to that, which I think Carl Sagan may have been the first one to actually verbalize it. So we can call it Sagan's corollary. And that is that any sufficiently advanced alien is indistinguishable from a god, right? And there is an episode of Star Trek TNG that I love that kind of explores this concept. And it is from, I believe it's season 3, episode 3 or 4. It's early in season 3. And it's such a good episode. Oh my God, I love it. Okay, so the Enterprise is visiting an outpost of the Federation that is monitoring a primitive society that they think is going to eventually be ready to join the Federation, but they're not yet. They have not achieved the warp speed requirement, right? So the prime directive is to non-interfere, right? Non-interference is the prime directive, but they get discovered. There's like a little mishap at the like observation station, and they get discovered, and these proto-Vulcans, which is what the society is, they're based on the Vulcans, but they're more primitive. Logically, of course, because they're Vulcan, conclude that the Federation members are gods. And it's such a good exploration of that concept of like what happens when you encounter a species or like a society of people that is way more advanced than you are. Like, what do you think about them? And they end up like one of the leaders of the society like is referring to the Picard up in the, because he's, you know, like he's a god up in space, right? Like, and if you think about it enough, you realize that like the Bible is just a story about space aliens, dude. Like it's literally just about the aliens that came to visit us and help us as we recovered from the last catastrophe, which was the flood 12,000 years ago, and just like help us get back on our feet and rebuild our society after devastation, right? Like, so what are gods? Gods are just sufficiently advanced aliens, man. That's how I believe that. Like that's my cosmology, or a small part of it. Okay, did we fall apart, or did I just? Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yeah, we did fall apart. Okay. Something wasn't. Okay, yeah, something was just not quite crimped enough that it fell apart. Okay. And so that's like, I think most of what we're here to do right now is to listen for messages from our galactic brethren, our cousins, our friends in the sky. You know, some of them are probably even our siblings, brothers and sisters, right? Our family. And let them try to help us, because they're not allowed to interfere directly anymore, because that's what the whole Yahweh thing was. We saw how that went that time. Yeah, humans cannot be trusted to understand what they are and how they, you know, what they're doing. So we have to do it ourselves, but they're allowed to help us. They're allowed to talk to us. They're allowed to give us messages. And they're doing that more and more and more. I think that's pretty obvious. And so we're just sitting around waiting for a sign. No, we're not just sitting around waiting for a sign. We're actively trying to shape our future, because that's what we came here to do. Because most of us aren't actually from here. And that's the deal. Like, that's the whole, like, you may have heard that, like, Earth is a quarantine planet. There is a quarantine around Earth. That means that you cannot just land your ship here and get off. You have to incarnate. That's just the rule right now. Like, that's not always the case, but at this juncture in Earth's history, in the time matrix, that is the rule. Obviously the rule is occasionally broken, but for the most part, if you want to participate on Earth, you are required to put on a human suit. And that means going in the door through incarnation. So that's what we've done. And then the problem with that is you forget, right? You forget who the fuck you are. You forget that you are not all that is. This is not all that is. You are not just a tiny little human having a human experience on this weird ass planet at this weird ass time. You are far more than that. And you are here for a reason. But you get sucked into the matrix, right? And so this is what people talk about the matrix. The matrix is, well, a matrix is just a set of rules. It's a set of rules that everybody agrees on that kind of form a grounds for interaction, right? Mass, gravity, volume, shape, dimension, space. These are all parts of the matrix on Earth. Time is a big part of it. Oh, come on, baby. Sweetie, it's nap time. You need to lay down and go to sleep. She's still fighting it. Okay. Well, I'm gonna finish this decade, and then if she's not asleep, I'm gonna go get her. We do not love a no-nap day. We need to lay down. We need to lay down. We need to calm our body down. Okay. Yeah, so what was I talking about? I was talking about the Matrix. So people like to use the phrase like break out of the Matrix or get out of the Matrix or whatever, and it's like it's not really how it works, right? This is we're not talking about like being plugged into a computer simulation when we talk about the Matrix. We are just talking about a reality that has consistent and shared rules for all conscious entities interacting with it, right? There are some things that are similar, like The Matrix was a great movie, and it actually really does illustrate some things. So like bots. There's bots in this Matrix. There's systems of control, there's technologies of control. But it's not like we're being used as batteries for aliens or anything like that. That's or the machines or whatever. It's not quite like that. And I've seen a lot of people on Threads posting that they view using the term the Matrix as a red flag for the spirituality to alt-right pipeline, which I think is a fair, they're coming from a good place, but I think they're throwing the baby out with the bathwater, which we do see a lot of just in general in the online spaces. Like, you can believe in vaccinating your vessel and you can believe that we're in a matrix. Like, those things are not mutually exclusive. And like caring for people who are alive, like, yeah, I don't know. I don't really want to go off of on an alt-right spirituality to alt-right pipeline tangent right now, because I don't believe that those people deserve the time of day. Speaking of matrix bots, those are matrix bots. As are a lot of this, and then the other red flag word that we get a lot of is like starseeds. People think starseeds is a red flag because it's been taken the wrong way. And I need water. I'm gonna go get my water bottle. Okay. Well, she's being quiet at least. 6. So we need 4 more. Matrix bots and starseeds being red flags. Oh! So you see why I've been pulling this through a hole and not just unwinding the whole spool. Okay, let's just wind this back up. What's this? One of the perils of working with wire. There we go. Okay. Yeah, so just because we're not saying that we're in like some sort of like, the machines aren't feeding off of our energy like batteries, right? And there isn't like another body that you're going to return to and you're going to wake up and then you're going to go like slurp down. It's not quite like that. It's just a set of ground rules that we all agree on in order to have a shared experience in a plane of reality, such as Earth, where we have this veil of forgetting that's going on. So the veil of forgetting, also known as the veil, is what makes you forget that you're God, right? And this is one of the most important concepts, I think, in spirituality for people to grasp, and one of also the most misunderstood. So the big misunderstanding about the veil is that the veil is not something that's outside. It's not out here. It's inside. It's within you. It's part of your brain. And it also doesn't really, I'm not sure if I believe that it gets thin at certain times of year, like at Samhain. I know a lot of people like that concept. I think it's always thin. I think if you just pay attention. But the veil of forgetting is what you have to agree to in order to become incarnated, unless you're like an avatar, right? Which means like an image of God, and you would know if you were an avatar. Like, you're not, I'm sorry, you're not an avatar. Your baby's probably not an avatar either. The avatars are very, very rare. This is like super advanced level, like level 10, level 1000 consciousness are the avatars. Jesus, Buddha, Babaji. There's some other ones, but unless you're an avatar, you have a veil of forgetting, and you are an individual instead of one with God. And the reason for this is because if you are not separate, if you don't know that you're separate from God, you would never do anything against God, which is impossible, right? Everything is God, but it would be very boring. It would be very boring if nobody forgot that they were part of God, because they would just go walk down the street and say, "Oh, hi, God. Hello, God." You know, there's no mystery, there's no interaction, there's nothing to learn. And so we have this veil of forgetting in this system, in this reality, in this solar system, and we just have to live with it, right? And then we can surpass it, we can overcome it as a process of our evolution, and that's something that like the great masters do. And it should be the goal at a certain point. That should be our goal. But it's not like you don't fail if you don't ever overcome the veil in your incarnation. There's no failure here. Well, there is failure. The failure is to recognize that other conscious entities are also conscious entities and deserve love and care and support. And that's kind of a polarity issue. So that's like, service to self versus service to other, which is a better way of looking at good versus evil. So that's like the raw material goes into a lot of detail about that. Service to self is the selfish path, of course, right? The so-called left-hand path in like Western magic, where you try to bring other entities under your own control. It's very difficult to actually get very far in it because you tend to get controlled by bigger, badder entities. So the service to other path is way more cool, way more accepting, and we can all be friends here instead of having to try to manipulate each other. But that's what we're seeing play out on the world stage right now, is the service to self entities. So, I don't even need to name them. I'm not going to name them because I don't want to give them the airspace, but you know who I'm talking about. The guy in the White House, the Grima Wormtongue whispering in his ear, those, and then of course the autocrat on the other side of the world who is pulling the strings. Okay, That's 10. Cool. We just finished the decade. Let's put together the, I don't know if I'm gonna have enough chain. This was just a sample, so I just bought this. I just bought a foot of it, and I don't know if a foot is actually gonna be enough to get all done. So let's see. Have we done? Oh, I found another weak link. Weak link. Let's fix the weak link. Okay. One, our Father, Hail Mary, our Father, Hail Mary. Wow, okay, we're almost, this is the 4th decade, and so there's only, we only need to do one Our Father, and then 10 more Hail Marys, and then we're done. And then we can use it. We can actually just pray with it. And I will... Let's see. I'm not sure if we're going to be able to finish it in this little sitting, but I'll probably finish it tonight. Yeah. So service to self, service to other. The service to other path is just happier, more fun, right? Because we just have to be, we can all be our own unique beings. And another Star Trek reference of this, because Star Trek is just so good. It's I did not grow up loving Star Trek. My dad was a big Trekkie, and so I watched TNG as a kid a lot, but I didn't quite get it, and I was always a lot more into Star Wars. But as an adult, I'm a convert. I'm fully a Trekkie. Even though I haven't watched that many of them, to be perfectly honest. I've seen probably about half of TNG, and then I've seen most of Discovery and all of Strange New Worlds. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. Another Star Trek example of the polarity, which you can think of as service to self versus service to other, good versus evil, is a way of thinking about it, but I don't like that because there is value in the service to self polarity. But a good example of it is the prime universe versus the mirror universe in Star Trek. So it's really explored very thoroughly in the series Discovery. And so basically they go through a wormhole and find themselves in a mirror universe where everything is basically the same, like the people are the same characters, but the entire structure of society is different, right? You have, instead of the Federation, the Galactic Federation of Planets or whatever, right? You have the Terran Empire, which is very brutal, very cutthroat, very self-serving, and in order to succeed in that environment, you just have to be very cunning and cutthroat, and like it's all about, you have to fight it out at every single stage, right? There's so much infighting, there's so much fighting, because it has to be the strongest person who leads, right? And so there's constantly like coups and takeovers and like fist fights and stuff like that. And so that's like, you can think of, if you've seen Star Trek Discovery, you can think of the service to other versus service to self polarity as the Federation versus the Terran Empire. And we would like to think of that as good and evil. And, if you have a service to self, if you have a service to other orientation, like I think most of us do, whether you know it by that name or not, it does seem evil, but there is value in the other. There's value in all things, otherwise God would not have made them. So I have finished a decade. I have one more decade to do. I'm just gonna check in with the baby really fast, and then maybe we'll finish it. Okay, yeah, I don't know if she's gonna go back to sleep, so I'm gonna wrap up here. But yeah, so, you know, cosmology, theology, it's all sides of the same two sides of the same coin. And that's a little bit about like my perspective and my philosophy and my my hobby of jewelry making a little bit along the way. Thanks for joining me, and I'll be back in the next one. Bye.